Welcome back to Random History. I'm your navigator as we explore the little-known events and people that make history such an amazing subject. The events I delve into are probably not the ones you learned about in school. These are the ones that when you do hear about them, you're likely to think that they could not possibly be real. But they are. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. During the Second World War, there were many times that this proverb rang very true. Inventions like synthetic rubber, the Jeep, the atomic bomb, even duct tape were all developed to meet the needs of the war effort. There were a few other inventions that proved themselves in the war as well. The creation of floating tanks, the mine and hedge-clearing attachments for tanks, and the Mulberry harbors, all used in the D-Day invasions, for example. There was one innovation that really stands out in my mind, because it would become the grandfather of one of the greatest attack aircraft of all time, the A-10 Warthog. In today's episode of Random History, I will present the story of Bazooka Charlie, a history teacher from Maine that changed the face of close air support forever. In World War II, there were hundreds of stories of bravery, daring, and heroism. This podcast has highlighted several of them. One story hits a bit close home for me. That is the story of Bazooka Charlie. Charles Carpenter remains one of the most unconventional and daring figures of World War II. A simple high school history teacher from Moline, Illinois, Carpenter became a war hero through his innovative and fearless tactics. By equipping a light aircraft with bazookas, Carpenter achieved one of the most extraordinary feats in modern warfare, earning him the admiration, awards, and enduring legacy befitting a true war hero. Born on 29 August 1912, Charles Carpenter led a relatively quiet life as a history teacher, at least before the outbreak of World War II. When the U.S. entered the conflict, Carpenter enlisted in the U.S. Army and would later become a pilot assigned to General George S. Patton's Third Army, serving as an artillery observer for the 4th Armored Division. His role primarily involved flying unarmed L-4 Grasshopper aircraft nicknamed Rosie the Rocketer, to scout enemy positions and direct artillery fire on those positions. The L-4 was built by the Piper Aircraft Company, and it was the military version of the Piper Cub. It had a 170 horsepower engine and a max speed of about 85 miles an hour. Its low speed and lack of armaments restricted it to reconnaissance or observation missions. Carpenter, however, was not content with simply observing and directing. He sought to play a more active role in combat. Carpenter's frustration would lead to a rather creative solution. He decided to arm his aircraft, an unarmed and unarmored L-4 Grasshopper, with bazookas. Carpenter's ingenuity, however, turned this humble little plane into a lethal tank destroyer. Initially, Carpenter mounted 2 bazookas on the wings of his aircraft. The M1 bazooka was capable of firing high-explosive anti-tank, or heat, rounds. Over time, he upgraded to the M9 bazooka, which could launch the M6A3 heat rounds, and he also increased the number of bazookas to 6. This innovative weaponization transformed his aircraft into a one-of-a-kind flying anti-tank platform. Carpenter's daring tactics quickly proved effective. His combat strategy involved flying low over enemy positions, diving towards the tanks, and firing his rockets at very close range. This approach was as dangerous as it was bold, exposing him to intense small arms and anti-aircraft fire. Despite the risks, Carpenter's precision and fearlessness allowed him to destroy multiple enemy vehicles, including at least 6 German tanks, earning him the title of Tank Ace. One of Carpenter's most notable exploits occurred during the Allied advance into France in 1944. Using his modified L-4, he destroyed 2 heavily armored German Tiger tanks and significantly disrupted enemy supply lines. In another instance, Carpenter provided close air support for Allied infantry under attack, making multiple trips to the battlefield to reload his bazookas and return to the fight. His ability to adapt and improvise under fire exemplified the resourcefulness of American forces during the war. Carpenter's exploits earned him the nickname of Bazooka Charlie, as well as the Mad Major, reflecting his audacious and seemingly reckless approach to combat. His achievements were widely recognized within the military and beyond. Carpenter received several commendations for his bravery, including the Silver Star, the Bronze Star with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster. In the military, when you receive a medal more than one time, you add a small oak leaf pin to the medal or ribbon, which means that Carpenter earned the Bronze Star and the Air Medal at least 2 times each. His actions also earned him a promotion to lieutenant colonel by the war's end. Even the German forces took notice of Carpenter's unique tactics. According to Carpenter himself, German soldiers began targeting any L-4 with concentrated fire after learning about his modified plane. This change in enemy behavior underscored the psychological impact of Carpenter's innovations, as even a light aircraft can become a feared presence on the battlefield. After the war, Carpenter returned to Illinois and resumed his career as a history teacher. Despite his remarkable wartime achievements, he remained humble and avoided the spotlight. Carpenter passed away in 1966 after a battle with cancer, leaving behind a legacy of courage, creativity, and determination. Carpenter's story continues to inspire military enthusiasts and historians. His ability to adapt and innovate under pressure demonstrates the importance of resourcefulness in combat. Moreover, his actions exemplify the bravery and ingenuity of the soldiers who fought in World War II. Carpenter's story also highlights the versatility of the L-4 Grasshopper. While primarily intended for reconnaissance and artillery spotting, the aircraft's adaptability allowed for unconventional uses like Carpenter's bazooka modifications. This underscores the broader principle that even modest resources can be transformed into powerful tools through ingenuity. Carpenter's success also reflects the military ethos of individual initiative. During World War II, many soldiers and officers were encouraged to find creative solutions to battlefield challenges. Carpenter's exploits align with this tradition, showing how individual ingenuity can have a significant impact on larger operations. Charles Bazooka Charlie Carpenter's transformation of a humble reconnaissance plane into a formidable tank destroyer is a testament to his creativity, courage, and determination. His story serves as an enduring reminder of the astounding feats that ordinary individuals can achieve when faced with extraordinary circumstances. Through his actions, Carpenter not only contributed to the Allied victory, but also left a legacy that continues to inspire generations. Inspirational men like Charles Carpenter are why their generation are referred to as the greatest generation. They also beg the question, did these men make the times, or did the times make the men? There's no doubt that hard times create great men, but do they possess some trait that primes them for greatness? Once again, the people that I highlight through these stories are heroes in the truest sense of the word. They overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles to rise up and save the day. Thankfully, many of these remarkable men and women survived to tell their stories, although they were usually very reluctant to discuss the events that caused them to stand out. The true hero for today's episode is one such man. I was going to highlight him in the Pearl Harbor episode, but I simply ran out of time. Today's hero was temporarily blinded in the Japanese attack on the USS Nevada, but his skill and tenacity allowed him to work literally in the dark to save his ship and her crew from being sunk that December morning. Chief Warrant Officer Donald K. Ross was a U.S. Navy sailor whose extraordinary heroism during the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, earned him the Medal of Honor. His actions aboard the USS Nevada were not only brave, but pivotal in ensuring the survival of the ship, making him one of the first recipients of the Medal of Honor during World War II. On that fateful December morning, Donald Ross was serving as a warrant officer in charge of the engineering department aboard the Nevada, the only battleship to get underway during the attack. As the first wave of Japanese aircraft began their assault, the USS Nevada was moored alone along Battleship Row, in a position that made it a prime target for enemy bombers. When the attack began, Ross immediately sprang into action, directing the crew in the engineering spaces below deck. Despite the overwhelming chaos and confusion, he remained focused on his duty, ensuring that the ship had steam power to move and maneuver. The Nevada's ability to get underway, even under heavy fire, was a critical moment in the battle. As the attack intensified, the Nevada was hit by several bombs and a torpedo, causing severe damage, particularly to the engineering spaces where Ross was stationed. The explosions created thick smoke and intense heat, making it nearly impossible to breathe or see. Despite these life-threatening conditions, Ross refused to abandon his post. He remained in the forward dynamo room, working tirelessly to keep the ship's power running. When the conditions became too extreme, Ross ordered his men to evacuate, but he stayed behind, determined to keep the ship moving. He worked alone in the suffocating environment until he was rendered unconscious by smoke and heat. After being rescued and revived, Ross immediately returned to his post, this time in the aft dynamo room, where he continued to operate the ship's power systems. Once again, he was forced to work in almost unbearable conditions, and again, he was overcome by the smoke and heat. His relentless efforts, however, ensured that the USS Nevada could continue to move, which ultimately allowed the ship to be beached, rather than sink and block the harbor's entrance. The citation that accompanied his Medal of Honor says, quote, The citation that accompanied his Medal of Honor says, for his, quote, distinguished conduct in the line of his profession, extraordinary courage, and disregard for his own life during the attack on the fleet in Pearl Harbor, territory of Hawaii, by Japanese forces on 7 December 1941, Donald K. Ross was awarded the Medal of Honor. He was the first sailor to receive this highest military decoration during World War II. Ross's actions were not only heroic, but instrumental in saving the USS Nevada, which later served with distinction throughout the war. His bravery and selflessness under fire exemplify the highest traditions of the U.S. Navy and remain an enduring example of courage in the face of overwhelming adversity. Ross continued to serve with distinction throughout World War II and in the post-war Navy. He retired as a captain in 1956, leaving behind a legacy of valor and dedication. His actions during the attack on Pearl Harbor are remembered as some of the most courageous acts of the war, and his Medal of Honor citation serves as a lasting testament to that heroism. Both Don Ross and Charles Carpenter exemplify the proverb about necessity bringing innovation. For Carpenter, it was rigging an unarmed observation plane to become a deadly weapon. For Ross, it was working blind to ensure his ship had the electrical power needed to beach itself and save the crew. I truly hope that you are never tested like these brave men were. But if you are, I also pray that you have the grit and the clarity of mind, or sangfroid, to overcome whatever hurdle is put in your path. In the citations for the Medal of Honor, they use the word intrepidity. It means the quality of being fearless, bold, and courageous. I cannot think of a better description of these amazing men and women that I present in these stories. I don't want to seem sappy or preachy, but I do truly hope that this podcast inspires listeners to emulate these heroes, not the pop culture icons that, to me at least, do not appear to live very heroic lives. Anyway, this brings us to the end of another episode of Random History. I hope you enjoyed it and will come back and listen to future episodes. If you'd like to view the transcript or sources for the episode, click the link in the description. You can also make suggestions for future topics by clicking that same link or shoot us an email. If you are interested, there's also a link to take you to the merch store for Random History. As always, I want to thank Argos Media for producing Random History and to thank my wife for her continued support and inspiration. Until next time, make some history of your own. Navigator out.